All right, everybody, welcome to the Rift. Hopefully we'll be able to get through this short delay here at the start pretty quickly. The Spectator client has been giving me a few issues of late, and been doing this right before the starts of games, but don't worry, don't panic. We should be into the gameplay very, very shortly once the client actually begins to cooperate with me. In the meantime, though, I can go over my introductions here. My name is Octavian. I am joined by the illustrious and indubitable Blaster Boy, who's going to be doing some color casting for me tonight. And we are as well joined by two pretty illustrious teams in their own right. SFU are going to be facing off against, what's the acronym I should use here? UAT? Yeah, University of Advancing Technology. AT just seems a little bit too short. As we get into some of the first matches of our round of 8 series in the playoffs here, and it looks like my Spectator client may still be giving me some problems.
Uh-oh.
Are you seeing live gameplay?
Yeah, I am well over a minute in at this point, so hopefully we can get that fixed up before any action breaks out. But
I may have to restart my client. You go ahead, Blaster, give him the radio cast.
Alrighty, so right now all we're seeing is pretty standard lines of scrimmages being set up across the map. We do have a bit of an aggressive setup from Simon Fraser, though, in the bottom lane. So their ADC and support are both sitting down in the bottom brush in lane. But right now, we are seeing this laning kick off. So Lee Sin, Xyle Flame starting on the red buff up top, and now looking for a gank in the mid. Gold Jet pushing in top. Demis a bit overextended here for this gank. A lot of damage coming down. No flash burn. He's holding on to that. Only level 1, taken down to about a quarter at this point. So having to play back all of a sudden. Pop his only potion as he start with that Doran's Blade. Now I'll have to take a bit of time to recover, and this will give Xenon quite a lot of control. Are we back?
2 minutes, 13 seconds. Is that the time you're seeing on the clock right now?
At 2 minutes 30.
2 minutes 30. All right. I am not actually able to skip forward. The timer will not let me.
Uh-oh. I will jump back. You
right.
pause it about 2:25?
2, 8, 9, 30, 1, 2.
31.
32 now. You able to get up to me? Apologies for this, everybody. The Spectator client was working just fine earlier when I did my pre-stream test, but you know, you can never really be 100% reliable.
2:45.
You are about a second ahead of me. That should be fine. Just pause it for like 1 second, then stop.
Okay.
We do not have the benefit of tournament clients here, sadly, at the CSL. Not yet, but there's some action onto JL as he's got to kite away from a 4th shot from that Jhin. And we've got Xyle Flame reaching for the bottom lane here, kicking for it, in fact, as there's a shift over the Sonic Wave, and Pneumatic is going to escape with his life from what could have been a pretty hairy situation. And I'll toss it back over to you, Blaster. Or maybe not. Xyle Flame is still hanging around.
Yeah, still looking for that gank to potentially come through here. He has been incredibly aggressive on this Lee Sin already. That was, I mean, that could have been his second successful gank in 3 minutes already. And he even got a pretty decent jungle clear, but because he has spent so little time in the jungle and he's been spending so much time in the lane and giving away information on exactly where he stands.
We've got a third co-caster on the desk here.
Yeah.
Demon is going to be trading with Zanny on there. You were saying?
Yeah. Since he's given away so much information, showing in the lanes and trying to be productive outside of the jungle on the map, there are camps to be stolen away by this great Frozen Knight. Very punctual about that so far. Might be spotted out here, though. He is pinged, but there's a fight down bottom.
That was a good Aqua person on the Pixel Bleach, who's now running away with death and fear in his eyes. It's a flash forward from Pneumatic, and a first blood from the Ignite support, the bloodthirsty Nami, claiming the kill.
Yeah, and something we didn't really get to touch on, it didn't really come to mind for me until just now. The Exhaust Summoner spell also got nerfed this patch as well, in addition to like the Varus that you mentioned in Champ Select. Is we see him falling out of priority, not picked or banned in this match. The Exhaust got nerfed, no longer reduces attack speed, no longer reduces armor and MR. So now that Ignite is going to become significantly more common, I feel, on supports in particular, and Nami is pretty much the perfect pairing with that. I feel like Karma could be as well, if Renduri was more looking for that super aggressive play style, but I mean, he doesn't opt for it here. It's still very powerful. It still reduces the damage that the champion is dealing. It just doesn't completely render them useless anymore.
Yeah, and I like Exhaust against the composition that Renduri is facing here, though, because they've got carries in every lane. And in the jungle, there isn't really anybody who would be bad to exhaust if they got into the fight, aside maybe from JL. Like, you could make an argument for exhausting literally any of the other 4 members of the enemy team, so it's certainly a valuable pick. On that topic, though, we do actually see Exhaust still in a lane where it's less familiar, up in the mid lane between Demnis and Xanion. We've got 2 of those.
Yeah,
You would have thought would be a little bit less popular with the nerf, but
well, yeah, and I guess you could also chalk up the Ignite for JL up to the mid laner also having Exhaust, so they don't really need 2 of them. There's no LeBlanc or Rengar or Kha'Zix or anything like that on the opposite side. Well, Rengar and Kha'Zix banned away. LeBlanc kind of, I want to say, gutted this patch. She got hit really hard in the nerf department, so probably going to be falling out of favor for a good while. Will not be seeing pick ban for, unless it's a very good Cumber pick, but that is not talking about something super relevant to this game. But the Exhaust, you don't really need 2 of them versus the type of comp. I would say that that's true for UAT as well. They don't really need 2 of them, but it's more of a preference in the mid lane for Xenon to have it versus the Jace, rather than taking that so that they have 2 for a particularly large assassin later on in the game.
Aggressive play from Frozen Knight, though. He's been living in the enemy jungle for the past few minutes, and he's gonna pay the ultimate price. However, Demnis is looking to take a little bit of vengeance for his fallen jungler, and it looks like he'll find it. Goldjet now teleporting in, drops the equalizer in the back lines, but there isn't really much of a back line left to drop it in. It's a 1-for-1 trade off the back of some highly aggressive jungling by Frozen Knight. Meanwhile, a snare into Pneumatic in the bottom lane is not really going to resolve into much.
Yeah, that was incredibly aggressive from Frozen Knight. It just doesn't quite work out for him, unfortunately. But the coordination there was still very much on point. The follow-up is a little just a touch slow from Simon Fraser, but the Shock Blast was fantastically coordinated along. The awareness and shot calling there was very solid. Unfortunately, the Jace just couldn't get quite as quickly as he needed to save Frozen Knight's life. Still works out very well, though. Bodes incredibly well for Simon Fraser through the rest of this game. If the mid and jungle have this much, that much clear communication, that much synergy, they can get a lot done through this series here. And I want to touch on something real quick. Between these 2 teams, we know way more about Simon Fraser. UAT has a much larger opportunity to know about Simon Fraser than it is the other way around. Universe. Oh, might have to hold the thought. Pneumatic.
Nope, gonna get just fine right now. But that earlier control that Frozen Knight had gained in the blue side jungle is paying off some dividends at the moment.
Yeah.
As he's looking to steal away a blue buff.
Yeah. Now we're starting to see roaming. Goldjet come out of his lane to move around the map, and that's going to be what we see here, really, for this Rumble to be most effective.
There's the Aqua Prison onto Pixel Bleach, pardon me. As he's gonna burn away to the Ignite again, a serious case of unfortunate deja vu for the Jhin.
And
it's an encore, really.
Yeah. That is paying off incredibly well for JL right now. This Ignite doing work, already secured them 2 kills, and that's fantastic. Yeah, goes over to the Nami. I mean, not the best place to put your money, but still very good nonetheless, as you're still getting gold. You're still denying the Jhin gold and XP, putting him further and further behind. It looks like we will be seeing a buff seal here from Xioflame, though, and ultimately I believe that is a trade, as Frozen Knight stole his blue buff away. So good awareness from Xioflame to realize where his opening is. We haven't really seen too much of that this game. He has not been on the back foot, though. And looks like he's gonna get chased out of the jungle here, potentially. Equalizer available.
His own ulti, but yeah, Equalizer gonna be dropped. He's walking the red carpet now out of the jungle. His collateral damage nearly puts a finale to that fight. However,
it might not be over yet.
Demnis roaming to the top side is looking for the cheeky snipe, but it looks like Xioflame was well aware of it. And that blue buff steal was in reaction to the fact that he just has no control in the bottom side of the map anymore.
Yeah.
Partially because Jail has gotten these 2 kills. Pneumatic and Jail have just been so lane dominant. He doesn't have any sort of priority in his own blue buff jungle at all.
Yeah. this is an incredibly comfortable build order for Pneumatic. And when you can get a comfortable build order like that, you can just completely take control of the lane. You can see that you're taking control of the lane. When you can back with the amount of money that you want to go back and get your tier and then go back and get the Manamune. Oh,
this is a good play into Frozen Knight here, though, as the fourth shot doesn't quite connect. And Xanion may have overextended a little bit, but it's okay. Between a Jace and a Graves, there's not a lot of CC to hold anybody down. However, Frozen Knight getting away and Pixel Bleach burning the ulti in a lane that he's already starting to lose.
Hell, man. Going crazy on this Nami. Yeah, very solid Aqua Prism and Aqua Prison, and getting some decent damage there.
Pneumatic and JO, they're going to continue to control this lane, which, just by looking at the matchup, it doesn't feel like they should be. Ezreal is certainly not known for his laning prowess, as another Aqua Prison doesn't quite land, and Pixel Bleach actually pretty well maneuvering through that little skirmish. Well done.
Yeah, and ooh, may not be over yet. Man, this it's really
bad. Lands and Jail's on a killing spree now. The Nami has been huge this game, swimming in an ocean of her own, really. And that continued pressure has just been so good for Frozen Knight as well.
Yeah.
He's had such dominance at this side of the map.
Yeah, and to take a step back and go to that point that you just went to before, and we can kind of extend this to Frozen Knight as well. Pneumatic and JL have been winning a lane that they should not be winning. I mentioned in Champ Select that the Jhin and Karma are incredibly powerful together because they both control the lane very early on.
Goldjet not realizing that Flame was in the area trying to make a gank happen in the mid lane, but there's just nothing left in the tank for the side of UAT. Simon Fraser, even without adequate vision, arguably, come out on top.
Oh, there was just such a huge miscommunication there between UAT. Flame kicked Goldjet out of the shockwave.
Yeah.
That cost them a kill just straight up. That cost them an incredible amount of damage in that fight. And just disaster for UAT. They have to try to pull together in the next few minutes because while this gold lead isn't the most impressive that I've ever seen, it is very, very large. For 5,000 gold, actually. So, I mean, this is nearing the upper limit of what I've seen almost any team be able to pull off in a match. You don't see that every game at 12 minutes. And I mean, I say this coming out of a match last week where it was very much the same situation. UAT, they just need to take a step back, take a breather here, and just try to figure out, clean up their communication, because it doesn't seem like they're incredibly on point in every single situation. There have been bright spots for them, but nothing has really panned out. Flame needs to keep these ganks going, I feel. That's been the big thing that UAT has had going for them here. Oh, Renduri. Wow.
And it's just... a lot of it is off of these lane lanes, of course.
Yeah.
Demnus is doing well. Goldjet even arguably is doing quite well, even if he's not catastrophically ahead. And as a result of that, we've seen Frozen Knight gain dominance in the enemy jungler. He really has not missed a beat. Even after that disastrous fight in the mid lane for UAT, Frozen Knight's immediate reaction wasn't to base and spend the gold he got. No, he went and stole away another jungle camp just to rub salt in the wound. Yeah,
exactly. And now Goldjet coming down with a teleport behind the turret.
Yeah, Tidal gets burned as well.
They don't know he's there. Just gotta wait.
Goldjet does have Equalizer, and he's gonna pop it immediately. There's a flash away from the Jhin. He's gonna drop into Curtain Call. However, they are in danger of being flanked now by the mid laner as well. This is just a party in the bottom lane. Pneumatic's ultis flies through, and there's a shockwave burning the heal off Pixel Bleach. It's gonna be some ultimates and summoners traded back and forth, and all in all, still more map control for Simon Fraser.
Yeah, and okay, I want to step back, make that point that I was going to make before around Dragon. Pneumatic and JL were able to find control in this lane from JL playing incredibly well. He's been playing out of his mind this game, and he was just playing so aggressively, punishing the somewhat weak level 1 of the Jhin and Karma. They got wave control with the Ezreal. The Nami was on point the entire time. The kills and the experience and gold difference that they were able to create even though Jo got the kills, was big enough that Frozen Knight could start moving down to the bottom side, start controlling the wave, because they always had the wave pushed to the turret of UAT. There was no risk of Frozen Knight ever getting collapsed on without a major loss being taken. And that's been the whole story of this game. Now look at the vision control down bottom. It just has become a stranglehold for Simon Fraser, and they're looking fantastic this game. Renduri, I mean, aggressing here, but even still, it might not be a trade that he wants, even with Xioflame in the backline. Ro8 is here, and so is Demnus.
There's a kick from Xioflame to try and buy a little bit of time, but he does not have Safeguard to get over the wall, nor, even if he did, would it have mattered. That is one dead Lee Sin. And let's call this back all the way to pick and ban just 15, 16 short little minutes ago, when we saw UAT put a huge focus on the jungle. They had two or three jungle bans. I can't quite remember the exact number, but they banned out a few very high priority junglers. And yep, Frozen Knight has still had massive control, as much down to the lanes as his own play.
Yeah. It's just, they just really didn't want the Rengar and Kha'Zix to get through, and I mean, I can't really blame them. Those are like the absolute top tier. They're like the Jhin and Varus of the jungle right now. But Graves is definitely up there too. He's a very close. If you put those two both at number one, he's a close second.
Bleach is melting. Pixel Bleach has melted.
Wow.
It really didn't take very long for it to go from current to past.
Not very long at all. Goldjet on point with these equalizers as well. Now top push coming through.
Yeah, and really just one of the things that I see as a pattern here in the way that SFU is playing is that they are not hesitant in the least. They will see a play and just pull the trigger on it. Occasionally it does seem a little bit rough. One of their dives bottom lane.
Yeah.
We get a flash away there from a hook that may have spelled death. Was a little bit rough. The Nami ulti not quite landing early. But they are fully ready to commit to whatever play they decide to make. And that in and of itself is a skill.
Yeah, and even with the roughness of that attempted bottom lane dive, nothing, the end result was nothing happened. That's been the really good thing that Simon Fraser has going for them here, is that even they're incredibly willing to take any call, like you said, but even when a call doesn't work out or they can't find the opening that they want, they don't overcommit. They step back and they just wait and they take what they can get, and nothing happens instead. Some teams might try to brute force that and go a little bit too far. They could have gone for that dive. Goldjet could have gone before the wave was ready, but he didn't. And ultimately they just didn't get any kills, but they got that turret. They still maintained that control. They didn't lose anything for it, even though they didn't get what they wanted.
And this dragon may very well be the last moment in the game where UAT feel like they can contest something, as Goldjet is getting melted here at the front lines. Not really his job, but he's going to turn it back around, and there's just way more damage on the roster for Simon Fraser right now. If Xioflame gets eliminated here, this is essentially a free Ocean Drake for them. Which is something I would never say no to, but there's Pixel Bleach over the wall with the aid of a bit of jungle flora. And Xanian will get kicked back out of the fight. A beautiful two-man Shockwave. Flash forward from the Graves, though, keeping his teammates safe, chasing away those damage dealers, and somehow SFU managed to get everything on the way out, even a kill off the back of it. But Frozen Knight and Demnus may now be caught out in enemy territory, but really, is it even enemy territory? Is any of the territory left on this map not SFU's anymore? It's a triple kill for the Jays.
What a snipe! Completely
Another snipe?
blind.
No? Okay. I was really excited.
Yeah, no, he had that. If Xioflame hadn't reacted that quickly.
Well done by Xioflame, for sure. But
yeah, props to him for sure. Oh man, Demnus is a monster in these fights. Again, blind snipe turnaround for the 2v1 versus the duo lane. Pixel Bleach was on the verge of getting any one of 3 or more kills in that fight, but everyone gets out for Simon Fraser, and they get 3 kills off the back of it as well. Plus they get the dragon, the whole thing that revolved around in the first place.
It's like those mind games where you picture the perfect scenario, except they didn't have to picture it at all. It just all fell in favor of SFU there. And a game that's 12-1 with every single turret over to SFU and every single Drake does not look like a game that UAT can win anymore. So what do you start thinking about going into the draft for Game 2 here?
Honestly, I feel like their comp is... Well, I don't think their comp is actually all that bad, honestly. They have a top-tier bottom lane. They have one of the most popular mid laners ever. And even more so... And it is, again, very much true right now. Have an incredibly strong top laner and a very good jungle for comfort picks. Might have to get back to that, though.
Yeah, we've got the equalizer coming down once again as Xioflame is going to be absolutely murdered in cold blood. There's a two-man shockwave again. Zanny on point with those in the last few fights, but for what little it matters. SFU is going to claim his life as punishment and potentially shove down onto another turret.
Yeah, ultimately, I think the issue that UAT ended up running into here was just they ended up losing a lot of their lanes, and that was partially due to some of the matchups that they picked. The top lane in particular was the main one that comes to mind. Nautilus into Rumble, when you know that it's a Rumble, I wouldn't say is particularly good because you're not going to be able to stop the Rumble or keep him contained at all. He's going to keep pushing in. He's going to use a teleport around the map like we saw this game, and he's going to ultimately start roaming and doing things elsewhere. There's just nothing that's ever going to happen. Look at the Nautilus. He's 0-0-0.
Yeah, over the back of the wall, scouting this one out. It's down incredibly low, and it will be secured by Frozen Knight. So that is the final checkbox on the list of everything that could possibly go right for SFU this game. But just speaking a little bit more on that top lane that you were just mentioning, you've got to keep in mind, though, the fact that SFU targeted that lane out incredibly hard in the draft. Every single ban, arguably, was focused up there. I suppose the Zac could have been a jungle ban.
Right, yeah. The Zac, more than likely, a jungle-focused ban, but yeah, they did put a decent amount of focus on that lane for sure, and it worked out incredibly well for them. They got exactly a matchup that they could want. And again, I do have to call into question, why was the Renekton not picked? Even if that's not a super big comfort pick.
Oh man, Xioflame just doesn't have anywhere left to go. I don't think he's going to be given another jungle camp for the remainder of this match.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not looking like it's going to be very much longer. Heartbreaking fail flash over the wall from Xioflame there, but to not harp on that too much. I really, man, I'm still so confused why the Rumble, why the Renekton wasn't picked. It's so good into the Rumble. It's a known counter pick. It's something that pro teams have been doing and looking. It's a matchup people have been trying to bait. Even
it may just be a lack of comfort on Baruch's part.
Yeah,
you were about to go into that, but what the hell was that? Demnus is huge.
Yeah,
and I guess Pixel Bleach is certainly not. Yeah, there's the depth charge onto Demnus though, but he actually did he just cleanse that off somehow? Didn't actually go off. There's another three-man shockwave. I think Xanion needs to stay on this Orianna for Game 2. His shockwaves have been on point, and then change everything else.
Yeah, I mean they have looked good, but it's been too little, too late, and they had a bright spot of a fight before, but it doesn't matter. Too little, too late. It took them too long to get comfortable in this match, and hopefully they can really warm up. And honestly, you could even reason to say that UAT was a bit rusty because they haven't gotten to play it all yet. They have not played a single match in these playoffs. 5-0'd their regular season. They lost a single game. They got a bye in another one, I believe. So they 4-0 pretty cleanly, but they have not played in the playoffs at all. Neither team played in the round of 32, and UAT got a bye in the round of 16 because their opponent ended up forfeiting. So they have not been on the Rift yet for a few weeks now. They should be practicing, obviously. You can't just chalk it all up to that, but it looked like it took them a little bit to get there. And once they got there, it was really close to being good, but they were just so far behind at that point. Simon Fraser just had a stranglehold on that game really from the start.
All right, well, we'll see whether or not Advancing Technology are going to be able to shake off the potential rust in game number 2 here as we go to a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right into the lobby as soon as we can, folks. Give us just a few minutes to transition to the next match, and we'll be right back.